Yao, luya memezulwane. Yao, yao, luya memezulwane. Yao, yao, luya memezulwane. Yao, yao, luya memezulwane. Yao, yao, luya memezulwane. Absheninda. Yeah, there's another greeting I need to add to my list of greetings. Thokozeni, please tap the screen, tap the screen, family. I was here a minute ago. Some of you may have been here when I was talking, but I was talking about something totally different. I want to talk about something that's really close to my heart, and I think that it's an issue that has been tackled by people who are ignorant of the facts as far as being a Sangoma is concerned. And I am getting so tired of ubungoma and izangoma being bashed by those other ones, those ones with white Jesus. Like I'm getting so sick of it, because a lot of the time they discuss us, and you can see that a lot of the things they say are from such a place of ignorance. So I'm going to greet properly, and then we're going to start. So, Absheni, Tokozani, Lesedi, Khanya, Tobela, Samagwini, Ndauwe, Shewe, Habarigani, Kwaziwai, Nangadev, Tobela, Dumelang, Saubona. How is everybody doing? Please keep tapping the screen, family. Let's see how many more people can get here. This is going to be posted on YouTube as usual. Family, so for those of you in South Africa, you are very much aware. This one will touch the South Africans more, but I think we can all learn something from this. So those of you who are in South Africa, or even in Africa, you may have heard of this. About 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, there is a story that came out in the news that a young lady, a young woman, I think she was now 27, 28, and she was actually being sentenced. But the story broke a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, is when she was convicted, and then she was sentenced just this year, right? A week ago. So the story is that this young lady unalived her father because she sent hitmen to unalive her dad, because she went to a Sangoma, who is somebody like me, and was told there that her mother, who had died previously, had been unalived by her father. Okay. So that's the story that was put out there, is that she took the decision to hire hitmen to do away with her dad, because a Sangoma had told her that the reason her mom had died is her dad had done it. So now we have this young woman who's down 2 parents. Here's something that I need to first and foremost, I don't know the full details of the case. I'm here to sort of talk about our practice and how we are supposed to practice. And I also want to talk about certain things that people do not quite understand about spirituality, and particularly the specification of being a Sangoma. So I always say that, yes, I'm an initiated Sangoma, but I'm also a spiritualist. two different things in the sense that your Sangoma is almost like your the place where you go and initiate. This is your sort of specialization, or this is your tradition, not specialization, but this is your tradition. So when we look at traditions, we're looking at things like Ifa, we're looking at things like Kadomble, we're looking at things like Vodun, we're looking at things like there are many traditions based on different regions in Africa. And depending on your lineage, if you are ancestrally gifted, may be called to initiate into a specific and particular tradition. That is why I've always said to people, especially our diaspora family, be very careful about initiations. Initiations are not something you just wake up one day and decide, I like Ifa, or, I like Nigerian culture, so I think I'm going to initiate. It doesn't work like that. And nobody goes to initiate because they want to. Most of us are going to initiate because that is our purpose and that is the path that is ours in this incarnation, right? So I've just kind of explained that. So yes, I'm a Sangoma, but I'm also a spiritualist, which is why I am also gifted with teaching, because there is a lot more to me than just being a Sangoma. There are those who are, Izangoma as well, but you find that they have other things that they do. For example, they work very closely and intimately with herbs. Like they're so knowledgeable with herbs, which is also a sort of bloodline gift, and they are called amagedla. So sometimes somebody has ubungoma and ubugedla, and so many other different things. Others just work with water. But we all in the Southern African region all fall under the tradition of Isangoma. It happens to be the word that is used most often and more often by the West as well when they describe any spiritualist from the African continent. That is the misfortune we have. That word Sangoma, the Sangomas did this. A Sangoma from Nigeria. No, he's not a Sangoma from Nigeria. There are no Sangomas in Nigeria. They are spiritualists. They are Babalaos. They are Ifayanese, They are marinas, as they call themselves. Those ones who work purely with just water and water spirits. Do you get what I'm saying? So the word Sangoma has been used indiscriminately, and unfortunately, we as Southern African Sangomas and spiritualists have suffered greatly because of this generalization. Someone in Benin does something. A Sangoma from Benin is like, you, Sangoma. You don't even know the meaning of the term. The word itself, if you understood isiZulu or some of the Southern African languages, ngoma is a song. Sangoma is she or he of the song. Our initiation practices and invocation of spirit involves the drum and dancing and singing. This may be so in other traditions, but it may not be that the whole practice is solely defined by dancing and singing. Ours is to become a Sangoma, she of the song. You have to have and dance. That is an integral part of our training. That may not necessarily be an integral part of other spiritual traditions in other African countries. I hope I've clarified that, because like I said, we get villainized for anything. It's just Sangoma did this, a Sangoma in Benin, a Sangoma in Togo, a Sangoma. Yo, guys, they're not Sangomas, those ones. They're not. They are spiritualists in their own particular traditions, which I cannot claim to know everything. Africa is huge and vast, and those traditions are just as huge and vast. I like to learn from other traditions, not necessarily to incorporate into my practice, but also from a teaching perspective, because then when I come, I can have a bit more knowledge not as an expert, but as someone who can juxtapose and contrast things for you so that you understand. Right? So here we are. So this young girl has done this. And the story is that she was told by a Sangoma that her dad unalived the mom, and she decided to take revenge and unalive her dad. So the issues around this, again, here we are, we're Sangomas, we are being invoked yet again. And a lot of people are like, well, why doesn't this Sangoma get found and get arrested? Because the Sangoma was the cause of all this. So I wanted to explain one by one the points people are bringing up and explain something. When you go to a Sangoma, and you go and this Sangoma throws bones or does whatever it is they use for divination. Some don't even use anything for divination because they are told, or some of them are also mediums where the spirits of whatever come through and they speak, right? So the spirits, when I say they come speak, I'm talking about that person's bloodline, ancestors. Someone in that bloodline will come through either from the mother's or father's side and speak into whatever is going on there. So let's say, because we weren't there, so let's say this young girl, I'll call her Lily for the sake of just, because I don't remember her name, but let's call her Lily for simplicity's sake. I know it's a Noibo name, but please forgive me. It's the first name that came to my mind. Lily goes to Gogo so-and-so, and Gogo so-and-so does what she does, and Gogo so-and-so says, there is a problem here. And the problem is that your mother is no more. I see that you're crying very deeply. You're deeply wounded. But the cause of your mother's death lives with you. Cause of my mother's death lives with you? Yes. Okay. The way we have been taught to work, we have been taught not to say people's names. The way I've said it is how I would deliver such news. The cause of your mother's death lives with you. Go and ask the people that you live with what happened to your mother. Umthetho weshoba, which is the laws that govern us as Sangomas, do not give us permission to cause harm. What do I mean by that? If I were to say, even if I see it, if I were to say, see your father is responsible for your mother's going. I have breached that spiritual ethical law, because the spiritual law, I have breached that ethical spiritual law, because now what is going to happen from there on in? I now have no control of what Lily is going to do with the information I've given her. But my job was to safeguard, to make sure that I don't give Lily information that Lily may take and go and cause harm. Now, here's the problem. First and foremost, we don't even really know if there's a Sangoma involved in this, because we never heard that a Sangoma was named and then they went to said Sangoma to ask any questions. Number two, it becomes a he said, she said, because the Sangoma could say, I never said any such thing to her. I never said any such thing to her. Or such as myself, a Sangoma might say, no, I did not say that her dad did this. Just like I would never say to somebody, your mother is a witch. I would say somebody very close to you is doing XYZ to you. Go and ask the people you live with. Why? To safeguard the harm that can come from just spilling out such a truth. Because in the space of a consultation, I have no time, or sometimes some people have no training to prepare someone to receive such ghastly news. So for me to just blurt out to say, oh, yeah, your dad is the one responsible for your mother's going is really irresponsible of me, because I don't know what's going on in this child's heart, except the fact that I've told her that she's hurting a lot. She misses her mother. And she feels stuck in her life because of that. That could have been the reason. Maybe she even came to check what was going on. And then this comes through. And then I throw this bombshell at her. And then at the end of the consultation, I'm like, okay, bye, see ya. In order to make sure that we are healers, because Sangoma, one of our definitions is we heal, we don't destroy, we build, we don't knock down. We bring harmony. We don't bring instability and chaos. So, there's that story. Now this has happened, okay? Said Sangoma has been, no one has named the Sangoma. The Sangoma has not been visited. But even if the Sangoma was there and was visited and denied it, or like me, I said, no, I did not name anybody, but I did say that someone who she lives with is responsible. There is no physical evidence in spirituality that someone can take to a courtroom and say, here is the physical evidence that my mother did this, or here's the physical evidence that my dad did this. We deal with spiritual matters. And this, I think, is where those who are not spiritual don't quite understand when they say things like this. But why is it that in African spirituality, every time somebody dies, there's always a spiritual cause, like with Africans? Why is there always a spiritual? Why can't it just be a natural death? What is so unnatural about something spiritual? Because it's all nature. But then let's look at it deeper. Before Roman Dutch law and before colonization, within families, when somebody passed on through some mysterious illness or through some sudden death, even headaches, we know what people can do. A stroke is something that can be manufactured and sent to someone. We know this, inyoni, you know. A cancerous sore on the leg, a cancer in your tummy. This is something somebody can concoct and make someone sick. So, before Roman Dutch law and before post-mortems came, what did our ancestors do in order to find out what had happened or what was going on? This was important because, number one, this was the one way they could ensure that this person got healed if they were going to get healed. But if that person passed on, they would still check to see what had happened to that person so that the burial rites and the funeral rites are tailored accordingly. Do you hear what I'm saying? You could not conduct the funeral of somebody in a particular way if you had no idea how this person had gone. Should this person be given weapons to fight back? You needed to find that out before you bury them, so that you bury them with the mkonto or with the sagila and tell them, who did this to you? We now know. Go and fight for yourself. There were no post-mortems, family, where somebody dies and it's mysterious, and then you go to the morgue, and then you go to the forensic lab, and then they open, and then they do blood, they look to see what happened, then they tell you, oh no, there was poisoning. We didn't have that back then. They had people like us. So there was only a spiritual post-mortem to find out how this person had gone. Our diagnostic tools were again in the spirit to find out this thing that is manifesting physically in somebody. How did it come about? And if it was because this person has high blood sugar, or this person has cirrhosis of the liver, is because we already know this person is the village drunk. Well, that was what killed them. It was a no-brainer. However, even though this person was a village drunk and they ended up with a liver that I could palpate and feel that, my God, this liver is hardened because this person drinks too much. He goes from one homestead to another, Monday to Sunday, drinking. That's what they did. And then they die of cirrhosis. I, as a healer back then, would just call it as it is. He's a drunkard. He killed his insides with alcohol. However, if there was a third hand in this person or another person's dying, it was my job to find out what is making this person ill, or what happened. What was this person's journey to their transitioning? Was this a sort of just a natural progression, or is there a third hand in it? That's where Sangomas, people like me, came in. If it was something that somebody did spiritually, I would be able to see. And then I would tell the family that actually, this is what happened, and this and this and this and this. That was useful information to any family, because who knows that the person who did this to their family member was not with the intention of coming after all of them one by one, because we know that these things happen. Where because I, as a mother, have an enemy, maybe the enemy failed to get to me, or the enemy wants to make me feel the worst kind of pain, and they go after all my children one by one. So in order to find a way to stop that, I would need to find out, okay, one child is gone. I'm not waiting until a second one goes. I'm going to go find out what happened, because the child just said, my head, my head, my head. And then they were gone. They had a severe headache, screamed, and then they were gone. I would then get up to go and find out what happened to my child. Then I would find out so that I could protect my family from any further attacks. Do you get what I mean? And back then, there was also what I called community justice administered. There were no police and stuff. This is why I say everybody lived in my art. So once something like that had been established and found, most times you would find that whoever did this, the community was coming after you. And they wanted a confession. If you didn't do it, people know when you haven't done something. But most people, when they're now surrounded and people are holding clubs and people are about to torch you, to light you up, if you did it, you're going to confess and say, yes, I did this, I did X, Y, Z, I went to such and such a place, and I did this, and I did this, and I did that. Then the community is like, Aike, you are a killer. So you live by the sword, or you live by the muti, you die by the muti. Then they would do away with you. You were taken to the king. That story was given to the king, that here's this person, Sangoma so-and-so said this. The person confessed. They said, yes, they did it, and this is how they did it. Here is this person. What happens to this person? Then the king or the queen would say, you are no longer welcome. You and your family pack your stuff and exit our kingdom, never to return. That is what used to happen to most people who were involved in what I call dark witchcraft. We don't have those kind of systems anymore. We're all living in the cities and. So this young woman hears this thing. Let's just say, because we don't know if it's true that she heard from a Sangoma. We use the scapegoats for a lot of things. But I did want to explain that the discourse that's going on is very ignorant. It comes from a place of not even fully understanding who and what we are and what we do. And unfortunately for us, we've had some misrepresentation of our practice by people who get paid by these huge, and they are, by the way, these production companies and media houses are white owned, who want to and have a vested interest in showing African spirituality in a negative light so that people stay stuck in Christianity. That is the battle that we fight constantly. Right now, go, especially in South Africa, my gosh, you just go on the Moja Love, just go on any of these. You will find shows where things are being done in a manner that portrays us as nothing other than people who work with dark entities in the dark, are hard-hearted killers, basically, with no ethics, no morals, no scruples, no conscience. And that portrayal of us is on purpose. It is very intentional. And sad to say, money talks. Because if I was ever approached as a healer, as a Sangoma, by any production company to say, come and portray ubungoma, I would absolutely say no. Because at the end of the day, once you've taken part in said reality show, you're not even responsible for what parts they keep and what parts they cut out. For starters, for me, I take this calling so seriously. This is such a sacred calling. I consider it an honor to be able to do this work. I would never, ever, ever, ever sell out like that. Because for me, that is selling out. These are things that are sacred to us as African people. And every time there is a resurgence in our awakening, a resurgence in our returning back to nature, in our returning back to who we are, the palm-colored creatures don't want that. Because then it means we're opening people's eyes, and then there will be a mass exodus from religion. So I had to do this because I wanted to set the record straight so that, and I will post this on YouTube for posterity. Hopefully there are people who will watch it and see it and understand that we may all be Sangomas, but we don't all operate the same. And the Sangomas that they're seeing on these reality TV shows are not a correct representation of who and what we truly are. Some of us are doing this to honor our ancestors, our bloodline ancestors, to honor Great Mother, and to honor the people that we've been asked to serve. So I just wanted to come and put this out there so that, like I said, use wisdom when you listen to some of these things that you hear. It's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of it. I mean, it's very saddening that this young woman did what she did. But like I said, we don't even know whether there was a Sangoma or not. We don't know what happened in that space with the Sangoma. But like I said, we are usually scapegoated when something negative happens. For all you know, she just decided to say, you know what? Because if she, perhaps, maybe she thought she'd get a lighter sentence by saying a Sangoma told her this. Maybe she did see a Sangoma who gave her a heads up. But I just think that we get scapegoated a lot, and our practice gets... our practice is really sort of degraded in a way, purposefully, a lot of the time. You know? We don't all work the same way, number one. So the generalizations, because now when it's spoken about, again, like I said, anyone who is a spiritualist is now called a Sangoma. You know? And we are the most prominent in terms of how we appear in public because of how we dress. These cloths that we wear, these beads that we wear, make us stand out very much. Where maybe in other spaces, other spiritualists don't walk around looking like us. I get these cloths made into dresses and I walk around like this. I go to the grocery store like this and so on. So I'm very easily identifiable. So now when somebody sees somebody like me, she's a Sangoma. Oh, those Sangomas. Based on the stories that are being put out there, the narratives that are being pushed out there. A lot of us do amazing work We just don't brag because that's not the purpose of doing this work. A lot of us don't advertise or put a whole bunch of testimonials like I did this for someone, because we're not advertising. In this our practice, I know for a fact that those who come to me is because their ancestors have had an agreement or a request to my ancestors, unbeknownst to me, unbeknownst to their child even, to come and assist. And there are people who've come to me, I've sent away, because I get that sense that you just came to me just of your own accord. It doesn't work like that. There has to have been something that had you come to me, either your higher self or someone led you here. Once that connection is made, it's very, very easy for me to connect with your issues and to connect with your ancestors, because we work through ancestry. So I just wanted to come and say this to say, really, it's getting really, really tired, this whole bashing of Sangomas. Like I said, we don't all work the same. And there are people out there who are busy. There are some sacred things about the practice. Like I've told you guys, that initiation is a very sacred / secret process for good reason. The palm-colored creatures, other creatures are always wanting in. And unfortunately, we even have Sangomas who think it's okay to initiate them. But the thing is, there's nothing they're initiating there, because ubungoma is a closed practice, number one. Ubungoma is a bloodline thing. What bloodline ancestors are they trying to initiate? As like it doesn't even make sense. But then money speaks, right? A lot of people will charge them huge amounts of money. But while they're in there, even though they're initiating nonsense, meaning there's nothing really going on, they are able to see what it is we do. They're able to tap, not even tap in, to use for themselves, because this thing is useless to them. They don't have the abilities that come with this bloodline gift. They can't. But they're always trying to study us and to see how they can keep one step ahead of us. And unbeknownst to many Africans, the salvation of Africa is going to come from the spiritual space. But they already know that. It's 90% of you who are in Christianity who don't. That's why they want you stuck there, so that we don't have the mass awakening that we need to really just shake this whole thing down. So, hi usiz lomntu omnyama shame. We really are in trying times. And, I said it before. I said, this was last year, I think I said, because I heard very clearly that we're going to get attacked. And the attacks are going to intensify on us. But I think for me, it's not just even about the attack, but I wanted to use this as a teaching moment so that people understand, especially those asking that question, like, why is there never a natural death? Why is there never a natural death? And it's like, what do you mean? Why is there never? Yeah, Africans always consult after someone dies or someone is sick, and then they consult. And then why can't they just go to the doctor? Do you know how many people have gone to the doctors with somebody saying, I've got a huge lump here in my stomach? The doctor does checks and says, I don't see anything. But if you palpate, you can see that there's a lump there. But the doctor will go and say there's nothing. They do x-rays, they do MRIs, they do scans, CT scans. They find nothing. Somebody will go to a doctor and say, there's a stabbing in my heart, doctor. I can hardly breathe. The doctor will do CT scan, EKG, you name it. They will look to see if there's blockages in the blood vessels, arteries, veins. Nothing. But the person will come to me. I will hlola and I will say, yeah, it's bobo. And this is bobo. Its source is this. And this is how we're going to get rid of it. And then we can heal that person. Something that doctors can't see. So it's disingenuous even for people who don't understand spirituality or who don't want to understand spirituality, like the Christians, to ask those kind of lame questions. Because for me, that's a really lame question. Most people, when they are not feeling okay, the first place they go to is to the doctor, the Western doctor. When the Western doctor fails, when the Western doctor says, I can't see anything, and here we have a problem too, which is why a lot of people don't want to go to Western doctors, because they make money off of you going. So you can go and the doctor will say, you have pain in your womb. I see a fibroid. We have to take it out. Meanwhile, the fibroid is the size of a pea. It's not causing any harm, but they had to find something. You come back after surgery and you're still experiencing that pain. Then you go back and they say, no, it's because we see a spot on your cervix. What do? They slice off part of your cervix. Now, you can't really have kids. They tell you if you want to have kids, you need to come as soon as you know you're pregnant so we can put a little stitch there to close it. Meanwhile, if you come to me, I do my spiritual scan. I do my spiritual x-ray. I do my spiritual MRI. And I can tell you that, this blockage, you've had 2 abortions and 1 miscarriage. This is the source of your problems. We do 1, 2, 3. We settle your spiritual debt with these spirits. We cleanse you. Let's see what happens. And then the pain disappears. The backache goes. Because now you've settled your spiritual debt. The pain you were feeling was to get your attention by these spirits that are trapped there to say, hey, we need help. Once we've done what we need to do and you've paid your spiritual debt and you've atoned and made amends, you're fine again. If you were having problems conceiving, you get pregnant nicely. The problem is, once you've gone to a Western doctor and they've messed up your uterus and then you come to me, now you're asking and expecting me to work miracles. So how am I working miracles? Now they've cut off part of your normal reproductive, without a cervix, you can't have kids. Because the cervix is what keeps the baby in there as it's growing. It stays closed. Baby doesn't come out. Because of gravity. Gravity would pull it out. You're right, guys. So I'm explaining these things to try to make you guys see the complexities of our work and how Western medicine sometimes complicates our work and our job. And sometimes people have a spiritual ailment. They keep going to the doctors until they are on death's door. Then they're like, no, let's go see someone. Well, by the time you come to me, if somebody had put an entity in your stomach or an entity here, by the time you come, this thing has now caused such damage, I can't help you. And then you transition and then they say, I see these Sangomas, they talk nonsense. They can't really do anything. Well, you came to me too late. Just like if you go to a doctor and your breast cancer is stage 4 and they're like, we're going to try our best, but we don't know. That's what I would do. I will try my best, but I don't know. And I would tell you honestly that you came too late with this thing. You came too late. So, family, we need to really open our eyes. I hope that this has helped. I just wanted to speak into that particular situation, especially, like I said, around all these questions and these comments that, quite frankly, are quite. Sometimes what I wish is when an issue like that happened, like a lot of these podcasters who are then talking about it on their podcast and so on, I really wish they would invite somebody who's more knowledgeable, who could try to break this down from an unemotional, non-judgmental perspective to just give you what are the possibilities of how this worked, or even give you a better understanding of why this practice that we have even exists in the first place. We wouldn't exist if we weren't necessary. Why is ubungoma there to begin with? Why is this work continuing after centuries from the first Sangoma, whoever that was, who Great Mother appointed, till we are here now today? Why are we still here? Throughout the anti-witchcraft acts of the 1950s, of the 14-something, there were several anti-witchcraft acts where our ancestors were unalived for this practice. Why hasn't it died? Why are we still here? Because we matter, because we are necessary. Now, our responsibility is to understand why we are necessary, us to understand what our mandate is in the here and now, and then to exercise that mandate with integrity, with morality, with ethics, with justice. Because if we don't, we also pay for it. We are not exempt from karma. We are not exempt from ma'at. We are not exempt from the fires of Sekhmet. Lo odla insalela zobubi. That is why I warn my colleagues sometimes that, see, some of these things you're doing, the time is now here where you're going to have to pay the piper. You think you've been getting away, but you really haven't been getting away with anything, because now Ma'at is here and she's seeking balance. My colleagues know this, but my colleagues are also caught up in the money thing. You know? Tadarendo, aina bungozi. We each practice in the way we feel called. If I choose to break with ethics, if I choose not to listen to my ancestors, that's on me. The same for every other healer. Our practice is not a practice that is universally policed. Yes, we have these organizations like THO, Traditional Healers Organization, but really, because this is spiritual work, the nature of trying to regulate how each Sangoma works becomes impossible. My ancestors are different from the next Sangomas, are different from the next Sangomas, are different from the next Sangomas. How we mix mutis is totally different. How we approach problems is different. How we approach consultations is totally different. How then do you come up with one uniform law or list of rules based on this Western system to govern us? There was something that came up, I think, last year or the year before, where they were talking about how, oh no, now they're going to be strict guidelines for initiation schools. I'm like, that's insane. Because if you go and initiate in Bushbuck Ridge under Gogo so-and-so, it's not going to be the same as if you initiate with somebody in Midrand under Mkulu so-and-so, or if you go and initiate, because all our ancestors come with different gifts and different ways and different ideas. This thing is vast and it's spiritual. It's as vast as the cosmos itself. So when it comes to this idea of regulating us, no, Sangomas need to be regulated. Yeah, they're just doing whatever they like. No, we shouldn't be doing whatever we like. We should be guided by those who have gifted us this gift. That's who should be guiding us. But there can be no Western model of law or list of rules based on this Western paradigm that can ever govern spirituality. How? The most they've been able to do is when somebody's finished initiation school, you register with one of these boards and you get your certification. That's it. How I run my ndumba, how I run my practice is between me and my ancestors. And a lot of the time it's constantly evolving as they teach me new things, as they show me new ways and new modalities of approaching problems. So which blanket law can be then applied? That will work. Ubungoma was not born in the era of Roman Dutch law. It was not born in the era of colonization and Abelungu. Therefore, what governs and who governs it cannot be governed by those structures and systems. It can never work. It just cannot work. The most someone can do when they come to my space is see, and you should have your certificate or whatever in a prominent place where somebody sees that you are part of a recognized body of healers. That's the most. What you and I then engage in with your ancestors, my ancestors, as we put a spirit together to figure out what's going on with you and to figure out what your diagnosis is, to figure out what your prescription is. Roman Dutch law rules, Western rules, don't have a place in there at all. It is what it is. This is a practice where we're supposed to self-police and self-govern. The same way ancient cultures, our ancient ancestors did not, there were no police. Police came with and courtrooms the way they are. This all came with colonization. There was a system of self-policing and then community policing, where the community agreed that if somebody does something like this, let us be in agreement that this is what is supposed to happen. People police themselves through ma'at, that internal discernment and wisdom of the difference between what is ethical and what is unethical, what is moral and what is immoral. All these things agreed upon by the community. You broke those rules. The community didn't come chasing to accuse you. That is why I said when somebody who practiced witchcraft, dark witchcraft, was caught, they asked you, what did you do? Then you confessed. Then the question is, so now that you've confessed, you know what happens in our community to people like you, right? The same thing with our practice. In our practice, we are supposed to self-police and apply ma'at, apply conscious discernment, wisdom before you move. Like I said, unfortunately, many of my colleagues are drawn by the money. If I give somebody such and such a ritual and do this, they'll give me money. This one seems desperate. And this is why I've always said to people, please don't go to Sangomas when you're desperate. Do not go when you are desperate. Remember, we are spiritual people. We can smell your desperation in your email. We smell your desperation in your in your voice note. I can hear that Thokozamkhulu coming out of you. It's written, but I can hear it. You don't want to do that. A lot of the time you want to sit back and you want to take deliberate action after you've had a moment of quiet and reflection and communion with your ancestors. How many people I've turned away when they come for consultation and I find out that they have not, they just came. I'm like, no, you are enough. Did you consult with your people before you came here? No, I just saw you on YouTube and I just messaged. No, I tell you, that's not how it works here. Not that I don't want to help people, but I'm very particular about doing things the right way. Because next thing is you are the same people who call us scammers when things don't work out for you. So there are many of us who don't put money before the work. Meaning to say, if I need to turn you away, I will turn you away. If I'm not reading you, because there are people who will come for a reading and I cannot read you. And I know why I cannot read you. Most of y'all are moving with people. If you're in the wrong place, I won't be able to read you. I may do some superficial, but to go really deep, I won't be able to read you. And I'll tell you right away, you know what, Sissy? Give me your details. I'll refund. I can't read you. You go sit, go pacha about this, go talk to them, and then see if you can find help elsewhere. That is ethical practice, because we're doing this practice to assist people. So I hope I have clarified some things. I'm trying to think what else I saw on some of these comments that people were talking about this. Yeah, I mean, the usual, Sangomas should be banned, Sangomas should be all thrown in prison. Ubungoma needs to come to an end. Ubungoma must be closed down. White people try to close down Ubungoma family, ain't gonna happen. Ubungoma is the lifeblood of the African family. The whole world over. Spirituality is the lifeblood of the Black nation. So no, I mean, you may wish that it be shut down, but I'm just here to tell you it won't. Long after I'm gone and many others who come after me are gone, this practice will still be there. So yeah, that's wishful thinking, but it goes to show the sort of, I think there's a lot of fear around us, and then there's also a lot of resentment, and then, there's a lot of this demonic things. And then it doesn't help that people have been seeing things that are scary and been told that represents ubungoma. I don't blame them. But again, I'm just here to set the record straight, to say we don't all move the same way. We don't all work the same way. We all have different ancestors. We all have different approaches to this work. And most of us, at least the ones in my circle, we are really very scared of our own ancestors. Because this is not my gift. It is a lineage gift that has been passed down. I'm literally just a custodian of that gift in this lifetime, in this generation. Long after I'm gone, this gift must exist and function and go to someone else. So who am I to come and put a black mark or to tarnish this gift in this generation, where I was chosen that I was the one who's going to carry isikhwama lesi? Ngisingcolisa kanjani isikhwama lesi sokhokho nokhokhokazi? Me, who do I think I is to do something like that? So some of us live with that reverence. I don't know how the others are doing it, but it is none of my business. On that note, family, I really hope that this has helped. I'm going to post this onto YouTube. And I hope it finds whomst it must find, who has questions about this practice, who has questions around this particular case and how things were. I wanted to give the historical context because, like I said, knowledge is power. We've been called barbaric. We've been called all sorts of things. Why are people doing this barbaric thing? Just go to a doctor. What can this person tell you about? These are people who are mentally colonized, who don't even understand how powerful this is. That your Western medicine just deals in symptoms. That's if they even see the symptoms. Sometimes, like I said, they don't see what we are able to see, and what they don't even understand what you're experiencing, where we are able to experience. How many people have been told, you know what, you have a mental illness when you've got bipolar, and they get given medication. And then their higher self kicks in and they're like, no, man, let me go and have a consultation. And then they come for consultation. You don't have bipolar. You don't have bipolar. There's nothing. You don't have bipolar. You have an ancestral gift that needs taking care of. And they are kind of now squeezing you because they've been telling you for a while. Am I correct? Yes, Coco, you're correct. Okay. You've been dreaming this. Am I correct? Yes, Coco. And then they add, yes. And then one time I dreamt I was underwater and I'm like, okay, Nazoge, you do not have bipolar. So now you were going to be on chronic medication for the rest of your life. Medication that damages your neurons, i.e. your blood cells. It impairs your cognitive function, meaning that uba izombi nje, it numbs your emotions. These powerful things are so important to your spiritual connection, your cognitive function, your brain, and your emotions. So pivotal to your spiritual connection. And they're going to come and they're going to dumb that down. And you're just a moving zombie. You just become a functional robot. As long as you can go to work for them, make money for them, they give you, that's all they care about. Whereas in African spirituality, we are holistic in our approach to healing. We take care of the mind, the body, the spirit, and the emotions, understanding that everything emanates from the spirit. If spiritually you're not okay, it's going to manifest in your body regardless. It's going to manifest in your mind. It's going to manifest in your emotions. If you're not spiritually aligned properly, it will manifest in your body, because this is the place where your spirit finds free expression. It's going to express itself in here. And your ancestors and your spirit guides and any other spirits that are like, hello, we've been waiting, they're going to express their frustration through your body and through your surroundings. You will get that backache when you need to fix umda wako. You will get these achy ankles and pain under your feet if kunomnguni who's now ready to dance. These are spirits expressing their frustration through your physical body. Western medicine will never teach you that, because Western medicine's job is to disconnect you from spirit. Mr. Wazeni family, I love you, Black Nation. See you on the next one. So